racism in Puerto Rico and its eradication is a pending issue. Within the framework of the Week for the Eradication of Racism and Affirmation of Afro-Descendants, the President and Judge of the Supreme Court, Maite Oronoz Rodriguez, promised to promote concrete actions to enforce the constitutional and legal provisions that prohibit racial discrimination, and that they demand that the administration of justice be impartial and equitable. Together with the Vice President of Costa Rica, Elsie Campbell Barr, and the Senator Ana Irma Rivera Lassen, the President and Judge participated in the panel Race, Justice, and Power that was carried out as part of the activities of the International Summit of Afro-Descendants. From her position of leader of the judiciary, the Chief Justice explained the challenges faced by the administration of justice to recognize and confront the inequities resulting from systematic racism that still exists in Puerto Rico, and reiterates that in the process of breaking with racism stereotypes, the first step should include educating members of the judiciary and support staff about biases and prejudices and how to counteract them in order to eradicate them. It is a constant, consistent, and forceful discussion and education effort to prevent the judicial system from repeating and replicating the racist attitudes and behaviors that are manifested in society. In addition, should recognize that it's necessary to collect statistics in Puerto Rico to address the problem in its various manifestations. I think the main thing is to do a study on an impact of race on the country's legal system, she said. Otherwise, Maricruz Rivera Clemente, co-founder of the Afro Corredor in Quiñones in northern Puerto Rico, it ensures that the Afro-descendant community continues to suffer discrimination and low representation in Puerto Rico, where advances have not yet been able to be eradicated racism 150 years after the abolition of slavery. Rivera Clemente explained that one of the manifestations of racism on the island is the lack of legal representation in all lines of Puerto Rican society, from public office, position of powers, to the media. This social problem is so evident that in August 2021, the Law 24 was enacted, which designated March 22nd as the week of the eradication of racism and affirmation of Afro-descendants, and recognizes people of African descent in Puerto Rico still faces derogatory treatment, deprivation of opportunity, marginalization, exclusion, and all the kinds of discriminations. This racism has caused part of the Afro-descendant population of Puerto Rico not to identify themselves as such, as shown by the census carried out in the last 2 decades. In the 2000 census, the first in which the population defined itself, less than 10% identified themselves as Black or Afro-descendants. The percentage rose a little in the one carried out in 2020, but fell again when the option of one or more races was included in 2020. In Puerto Rico, there is a serious problem of identity due to all the political situations that have occurred in the country since the Spanish conquest, because of the question of race was a matter of caste. Lamente, the co-founder of the Afro Corridor and activist in favor to the protections of natural resources and the cultural heritage of Quiñones and Loaiza. The island's hegemonic class have always been white, and that is the image that has been sold abroad since the mid-20th century, specifically to the United States, a country that took control of Puerto Rico after the Spanish defeat Spain defeat of the Spanish-American War in 1898. The image of the country was whitewashed, affirmed Rivera Clemente, emphatically, citing among other things the tourism commercials that were made to the islands for this, and within the framework of the modernization of the islands and development of the tourism, the Black populations are displaced from the coastal areas where they mostly inhabited. It is our population that suffers this displacement to give away to the supposed development that does not mean economic and social development for our Black communities, denounces the activist. I believe that since we started working 20 years ago, we have found significant changes in our people. Visibly has increased and racism is recognized as a social problem, says the activist. The Law 54 states that racism causes inequities in access to health, education, housing, employment, economic mobility, leadership positions, among others. A disadvantage suffered by the artist Celso Gonzalez, who, despite being an author of more than 200 works of public art, feels ignored by the institution of and considers the Afro art has traditionally been labeled folklore and craft. It's been very complex to be able to speak face to face in the art world and for expressions to have the validation, for our expressions to have the validation, says Gonzalez, who assured that for Afro-descendants, the challenge is greater and the difference in opportunities is very obvious. What do I have to think about this? What do I have to say? I think it's excellent that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is committed to promote concrete actions to enforce the constitutional provisions and law that prohibits racial discrimination. Good for her. Thank you. But with all due respect, I aspire and hope that this commitment to our Afro-descendant brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico are visible and tangible in our Black population. And it should be noted that the Afro-descendant population worldwide is today more than ever awake and willing to defend our rights with or without our governmental institutions. Keep that in mind. We are not gonna wait for you guys to defend ourselves because it's been too long. So it's time that not only our Puerto Ricans, Afro-descendants, but all of us around the world to stand up for our rights. And this is when I say that we have to unite today more than any other day. Is today when we have to think of ourselves as one to be able to overcome all this foolishness of racism and this discrimination and degradation and the provider of our resources. My name is Tuti Barron. You can find me in this platform as Tell with Tuti. You can find me on YouTube as Tell with Tuti. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Tell with Tuti. Thank you for watching.